What's going on, you guys? AK40 Kevin here in the Gamer Heaven. Today we're going to be disassembling the licensed Sony DualShock 5 controller. That is the official controller for the PlayStation 5. We have already disassembled the Microsoft Xbox Series S and X controller on this channel. I also have a ton of disassembly and custom controller builds on this channel, as I do have a small business creating custom controllers. Pictures floating around my body here, so go ahead and message me if you need a custom controller for Xbox, PS4, PS5, PC. I even do the Nintendo JoyCons, or if you have a retro console like an N64 or NES or something like that, I'm not afraid of those either. So, without further ado, let's crack into this bad boy, as disassembly and reassembly is, it's not easy. It's not easy. I love a good challenge, but these things are tricky. Primarily because it's new hardware, but also because there's some really intricate parts in there with the haptic feedback motors and the adaptive triggers. Some interesting components in here, guys. Let's get it. Guys, go ahead and slide myself over here to the Stormtrooper desktop. This is where we do our unboxings and our builds and whatnot. Nice little work center here. We have the Sony DualSense 5. Now, some things you are going to need and some things that you are going to want. You are going to need a tiny little Phillips head screwdriver, and I would highly recommend getting one of these controller toolkits. I will have this linked in the description below, as well as some of the random shit you see around my room, like my desk and my PC stuff, my monitors and my chair, and a bunch of stuff I get questioned about all the time. So I do recommend getting a kit like this. It has a little plastic guitar pick looking thing that you can kind of pry up the plastic shells. Has some mini screwdrivers. Then I also recommend a little magnetized tiny screwdriver set like this. This has all the T8s and T6 screws that you are going to need for the Microsoft controllers, as well as the tiny Phillips heads that you need for the Sony controller. So first step here is to go ahead and get this black shroud off. And these things are really finicky. This particular DualSense 5 here I have not disassembled yet. I have done another one, but I did that for a customer, and I am going to have the footage from that uploaded shortly. But you're going to go ahead and get your little pry tool up underneath. Holy mother of God, she's slick. Up underneath the shell here, and you're going to need to pop off this shell. It's very tight the first time, so I'm going to go ahead and use this pick here to try and pop it up a little bit. There we go. You hear it starting to pop apart. I broke it. Great. I broke a $73 controller. Just kidding. It's not. It's not. I've been working with controllers for so long, boys. You know, building controllers like the ones you see pictures on screen here. That I know when I'm really breaking a controller or when I'm just flexing her a little bit. And I'm just flexing her a little bit. Now be careful when you pop this thing loose. It does go flying sometimes, so watch your eyeballs. Like seriously, this black thing will fucking pop up and hit you in the fucking face. Don't be scared to fuck with her a little bit. Excuse my language. Alright, cool. So, you got this piece off here. As you see, it's still intact. I didn't break it or anything like that. That is going to reveal two Phillips head screws here, little tiny ones, the same exact ones that were on the PS4. Now you're going to need to pop off these top bumpers as well, and that is going to reveal... Oh my god, I'm breaking a brand new controller. That is going to reveal to you guys two more screws up here. I'm going to go ahead and bring you guys closer so you can actually see when I start doing intricate stuff with the chip, with the board. Yeah, it would probably be beneficial if you guys could actually see what I'm doing. Alright, bring my softbox lights over here a little bit so we have like really good lighting. Ooh, that is some high quality YouTube. Alright. So real quick, I'm going to do the YouTuber thing. I don't like to do this too often, but you kind of got to, especially for a small channel like mine. If you like this kind of content, this is beneficial for you. I help you with this video to actually disassemble your DualSense 5 to repair it. Hopefully it doesn't need repairing this soon, but you know, to customize it or whatever. Or you just enjoy watching this kind of content. I'm somewhat wacky and entertaining, not to mention informative for you guys. Please consider subscribing. It's about 86% of people that watch my videos and like the video are not subscribed, which is quite frustrating. So we got 3 of the 4 screws out. One more right here. I'm not great with math, but 4 minus 3 is 2. Wait, that's not right. Alright, so with those 4 screws out, you can pry up the bottom. The top might be a little bit sticky still. That's okay. Go ahead and take your little pry tool and just work it down the side like that. and you can go ahead and separate the front and rear shells from each other. So at the bottom here, you have two little prongs that are still connected. Hopefully you guys can see that. Hopefully it's all focused in for you guys. You need to pry those off real quick, like that. So while you're prying it apart with your fingers, just go ahead and take this pry tool and pop up on these tabs. Do not break them off. This one's a little bit bent, but it's not broken. And you are going to be able to separate the front and rear shells. So flipping her over, the first thing you're going to see is a big old meaty battery. This is a 1560 milliamp hour battery, or a 5.7 watt. So a big old battery in comparison to the PS4, but it still doesn't have very good battery life. That's because they have these massive haptic feedback motors and then also adaptive triggers. Not to mention, it's a bigger chipset, probably drains more energy and whatnot. Also have these massive modules in here that is for the adaptive triggers. We are going to get to those in just a skosh. First things first, let's get this battery out of here. It's not soldered in or anything. You can just unplug it like that. You want to make sure when you're working on any kind of electronic, including a controller, that you make sure you remove power to it. There is a Phillips head screw right here that you want to remove. Don't want it to strip out, so kind of push in towards it so it makes good contact with the screwdriver. Okay, set that aside. That screw is identical to the other screws from the shell, so you don't need to worry about keeping that separated or anything like that. Just go ahead and get this tray out of here. You do have a little ribbon cable in here for the built-in microphone, so you need to pull that out like that, and this will lift out. Now, if you unplug that ribbon cable there, your microphone that's built into the controller will not work. So if you're one of those people that's all paranoid about the government watching you and you don't want, you know, Siri listening in or whatever, and you don't want a speaker in your controller, you can just remove that and you'll have no microphone functionality in your controller. All right, now you want to remove this ribbon cable right here. Just pull it out. That is for the touch bar, or I'm sorry, the light bar. Well, light bar and touch bar, actually. And if you can't get it, I do recommend having a little pair of metal tweezers. It makes your job a lot easier. So couldn't find my little baby tweezers, but a quick trip to the garage landed me these needle nose pliers, which will work just fine. Cool. Now again, you don't want to mess up any of these ribbon cables because, I mean, you can replace them, but it's just another part you're going to have to replace. Not to mention, they're very important because that's for the touchpad and the light bar, and obviously you want full functionality there. Alright, so the rumble force motors are soldered onto the board here. You don't want to rip these out, especially if you don't own a soldering iron or feel comfortable resoldering wires, but we're going to carefully maneuver this board. Go ahead and remove both of these ribbon cables here for the two dynamic rumble force, or adaptive trigger modules. Alright, now you're going to flip this board carefully back like this. We keep this bad boy. This is your speaker, so you want to keep that. Save that one for later. So one of the analog sticks just popped out. The other one's still connected to the thumbstick module. As you see, these thumbstick modules are virtually identical to what was in the PS4. Virtually, they are the same thing. So we have two more Phillips head screws here that hold in the light bar / touch bar. You know, that was two separate components on the PS4. The PS5. The light bar and it's not really a touch, the touch bar and the light bar, which isn't really a bar anymore, it's like a light that is around the touch bar. Okay, you want to keep these screws separate from the other ones. They are longer and they are specifically for this part of the controller. I do recommend having some kind of a magnet too, which I'm about to grab mine, because that'll help suck out any screws that you lose in there, which is very, very convenient. Alright, got my magnet here. I'm going to use the magnetized side to suck out them screws. This is actually a really neat tool. You can run a screwdriver through the magnetized or demagnetized side, and that will magnetize a tool for you. So now this screw should, want to stick to my screwdriver, which is really cool. Set those aside. Let's kind of clean up our workstation a little bit. Keep those screws together. We don't need these anymore. I'll keep one pry tool out in case I do need it. Don't need the pick anymore. Okay. Don't need the shell, battery, that, the thumbstick. Thumbstick, we'll just fucking pop this one off too, fuck it. Alright, so with those two screws removed, remember, be kind of gentle with the board here so you don't rip out the, set the speaker aside here. So, anyway, you're going to go ahead and take your little pry tool and pry out this rubber brace here. And also, this is how the light bar actually works to where it goes around the touchpad. It's one LED off the motherboard, but it basically sheds the light through this clear plastic and then beams it around the outside of the touch bar. So that's how that works. Pretty cool. Go ahead and remove this little ribbon here that's held on by two prongs, just so you don't rip them out on accident. Alright, so next, to get this front shell off, there are two more screws over here, kind of by the mounts for the rumble force motors. Well, actually, they're not even rumble force anymore. They're haptic feedback motors. They're quite different, actually. A lot more advanced than what we had with the previous generations. So, get these out. Again, these screws are identical to the ones that are in the shell, so far those are all identical, which is good. You don't have to worry about keeping those separated or anything like that. Now we are able to drop off the front shell. Come back here. Come back. Trying to run away under my router. Now we can pop the front shell off carefully. As you can see, the front shell is still held on by that little ribbon cable right there. And what just fell was the two, options and share buttons out of the front shell, because those just kind of dangle in the shell there. So we're going to go ahead and unplug this ribbon cable. Okay. And you now have your front shell here. Sweet. So pop the touch bar out. And you can remove those two screws right there if you wanted to separate the actual chip and everything, and you just wanted to paint this touchpad a different color than white. You could do that. I'm going to go ahead and leave that intact though for now. So let's go ahead and remove the face buttons and the D-pad and the PlayStation button. These anti-friction rings can be pried out with something like tweezers or a pry tool, but they're in there pretty good. They might have even used adhesive. I would just leave these in unless you're trying to, customize this part of the controller where you want to paint these rings. I kind of do want to do that actually. There we go. So they pry out like that. They're in there pretty good, but if you can get a finger around them, get your finger inside the hole pretty deep, boys, and kind of work your way around the good spot of the controller, you can actually get these out. They are a little finicky though, I'm not going to lie about that. There we go. So that's the easiest way to take those out, is just to use your pry tool to get underneath the lip there and pop them out. You have these little rubber gaskets in here. These should be nothing new to you guys if you've been around the channel. You've seen disassembly videos on YouTube. Just pop these off. Set these aside. Now, all your face buttons come a-pouring out. So you can replace these with, bullets or whatever you might want to use. Skulls or whatever custom face buttons you want, or just paint the existing ones if you're trying to, keep the build cheap. Go ahead and pull off this rubber gasket right here. That's for your PlayStation button, which I think is really cool on the new PS5. It's an actual PS5 logo. It's actually cut out in that shape, which I think is really, really cool. So that's your front shell right there, boys. All right, so these adaptive trigger modules, you're gonna flip the controller over, and they have two screws, two Phillips head screws right here. I just turned the fan on just to give me a quick blast of air because it's pretty hot in here. I will turn it off in just a minute so the wind noise won't be unbearable for you guys. I do apologize. I know it's probably pretty annoying. All right, cool, we got our module out, and that ribbon cable, remember we disconnected that earlier, so it's not held in place anymore. Now, in order to disassemble these, because I do want to take a look at the guts, at the internals, these are pretty amazing. There are two Phillips head screws. I already removed that one there. There's another one right here. Might need an even smaller Phillips head screwdriver. This one feels like the driver tip's a little bit big, actually. There's still one more screw back here. I'm like over here really jacking on it. And this one does have a little ribbon cable back there. I'm not going to remove it. I'm just going to go ahead and maneuver my screwdriver around it. All right, sweet. So, didn't really come out all the way, did it? It's fine. So this is the new adaptive trigger module, and as you see, it's completely modular, meaning there's a ton of components in here which can be replaced. There's a gear in there This is implemented, this little motor here, in several games for the PS5 where it gets stiffer or lighter, so it takes more effort for you to pull the trigger, which is pretty cool. You do still have a spring mechanism in there. That's what helps the trigger to snap back so it doesn't just stay depressed. And all in all, I mean, these are pretty technologically advanced, just like these haptic feedback motors, which for the sake of this video, I'm just going to show them to you. I'm not going to remove them because they are pretty intricate. In a future video, I probably will remove one from the board and take it out, but in comparison to a standard rumble force motor, picture on screen here, these are a lot different. They're coated in this rubberized material, and they also vibrate 360 degrees around your palm. So in different parts of your hand, the back, the front, you'll feel different things. And they can also emulate tons of different types of vibration. So if you're driving on sand or something, it'll feel like sand's crinkling in your hand. It's pretty impressive. I just cut the fan off, give that a couple seconds for it to spool down. So I have not found a way to get these trigger covers or caps off, which kind of sucks, but from a customization point, I guess I could just wrap the entire thing in masking tape so all the, the ribbon cable and all the mechanical goodies are covered and just the plastic trigger itself is exposed and paint it that way, but that's unfortunate. I mean, I've been messing with it off camera for about 15 minutes with my pry tool, and I cannot find a way to, without busting it or hurting it. Alrighty guys, so that is the official disassembly process for a DualSense 5. I think these things are very impressive. Now, I'm not going to reassemble it right now because I'm about to be customizing this one, which I'm about to be uploading a video of everything I do to this bad boy to make probably the first, if not one of the first custom DualShock 5 controllers. I haven't seen anything on YouTube or Instagram or anything like that, so hey, I'm about to make an AK-40 Kevin custom controller here, and I'm extremely excited about that. So that'll be in a separate video here. If you guys have any questions about the DualSense 5, like you're having an issue with your rumble force motor or haptic motor, go ahead and let me know, and I can do further disassembly videos breaking down the components of the haptic feedback motor or the adaptive triggers and stuff like that. But I think that's going to do it for this video, guys. If you did like this content, please consider liking and subscribing the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.